Playing on a Budget is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the best Magic the Gathering singles and sealed retailer on the internet, GatheringMagic.com, your #1 source for Magic the Gathering news and content, and RogueDeckBuilder.com, my personal channel filled with innovative and entertaining Magic the Gathering rogue brews. Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com with another week of Playing on a Budget. In this episode, we're going to stick to the $30 theme, this extreme budget. I think you guys actually like some of these budgets that are quite lower than the $100 budget, but we're going to go back to the $100 budget in a week or so as the metagame becomes a bit more stabilized and I can start brewing more of the decks that can be more competitive than the $30 decks. But for right now, this deck has actually done quite well for me. I ran it in a F&M last week. This is the week after the Pro Tour. So actually the Pro Tour was going on while I was playing this mono white heroic deck. And it did quite well for me. I was able to win the entire thing. I played against a Selesnya aggro deck, a mono green devotion, a Jeskai aggro or Jeskai midrange, tempo, whatever you want to call it, the one with Mantis Riders, Stoke the Flames, etc., 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 and also against a mono black aggro. Mono black aggro was actually in the finals, and this deck just ran it over. So the deck. The four decks that I named are quite popular. We did see some of the Selesnya aggros are starting to go over to the more Abzan aggro decks, but Selesnya aggro you'll see a lot, and it did still use like Fleecemane Lions, Blue Chronoses, Brimazes, those type of the 2, 3, 4 drops, and put a lot of pressure, and this deck just ate it up. So anyway, I'm going to explain exactly how this works, but first we'll go over the prices to show you that it's a $30 budget. These prices are brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, our official sponsor for the Playing on the Budget episodes. So here we have 6 Banishing Lights. There's not 6 Banishing Lights in this deck. There's only 2 in the sideboard. What this is just placeholding for the Launch the Fleets, because Launch the Fleets are about $3.50 right now, and Cool Stuff is sold out of them at the moment. So that's going to be the 4 slots for the Launch the Fleets, which is a very, very important card in this deck. It actually has been going up. A lot of the vendors have sold out because of a few decks. I believe there was one close to the top 8, or did he actually squeak into the top 8 with the Launch the Fleet decks? I think he just barely missed the top 8 with a red-white Launch the Fleet decks. And this deck is a little bit different. It's Launch the Fleet's a good card because it's just so easy to spread around the heroic triggers. But on this deck, you really only need 1 creature out, and the name of the game is just to protect your 1 creature. So we have Dawnbringer Charioteers. Those are going for 50 cents. We're going to use 4 of them, 2 in the main board, 2 in the side. Fabled Hero, which is just an amazing card. If they waste, you can bait out a lot of removal with your 1 and 2 drops and then slam down a Fabled Hero. I actually like to think of Fabled Hero as a 4 drop in this deck because you want to protect it. We have 3 Seeker of the Waves, which are a little bit pricey for uncommons at 75 cents, but this card is seeing play in Legacy, and we have a Spear of Heliod at a whopping $1. So again, this deck ends up being around $30, give or take all the commons and uncommons. You aren't required to use Banishing Light. Suspension Field works okay, as well as the more Devouring Lights in the sideboard could be a good replacement for Banishing Light. So you can even get it under this price. You absolutely do not need the Launch the Fleets. There is some other cards you could choose to use instead of launch the Fleets, but I found out Launch the Fleets to be very good if I'll show you exactly how you work in the Launch the Fleets and what decks you actually like them against, and they can just clog up the board against other aggro decks, or they can swing in for the win if your opponent decides to tap out and you have 1 or 2 creatures out. That's an extra 2 damage plus heroic triggers, so you can think of Launch the Fleet a lot of times as doing 4 damage or even more if it's like a Fabled Hero. So anyway, let's just go over the deck tech here. What we are running is just basic lands, 21 of them, and then I put in 4 Radiant Fountains. I didn't have this in my F&M list, but I thought I'd try Radiant Fountains because you're going to hit your white and your double white. You don't need your double white until turn 3 for this deck, so by that time you probably should hit your double white. And if Radiant Fountain becomes an issue with a mana, we'll just cut them for regular planes. I thought it's just another way to really get you over the burn decks, stabilize you. 2 life is huge out of just a free card, and then yeah, you're just running 18 other planes. So you're easily going to be able to hit your two white and whatnot. So the heroic enablers in this deck all protect your dudes. So we'll go over them second. What we're going to run the best heroic drops. We're going to Favored Hoplite. It's a 1/2 for 1 mana heroic. You put a +1/+1 counter on it, and you prevent all damage that would be dealt to it this turn. Huge interaction. As this guy, if you just need to, like, you can Defiant Strike him, and he is protected against the Anger of Gods, even though it would just be a 2/3, or in this case a 3/3 for that turn. Anger of Gods would not deal damage to the Favored Hoplite. Incredibly powerful card. We also have the Lagonna-Band Trailblazer that already dodges the Anger of Gods. So Anger of Gods is terrible against this deck, so is Drown in Sorrow. All of your cards get above that. The one problem this deck does have is, again, like End Hostilities, or I'm trying to think of the Black Sweepers that do not target. And if it is the Exile, if it's like Fated Retribution, or I believe Black does have a 6 mana removal you see every now and again that is not Destroy, then the Ajani's Presence doesn't even help it. But against End Hostilities, you do have Ajani's Presence, but it's not as reliable as usually Ajani's Presence can do or between God's Willings, Ajani's Presence, and Feat of Resistance, you can take care of any removal card that targets. And Ajani's Presence, again, is their only out versus End Hostilities. So it's the Lagonna-Band Trailblazers and Favored Hoplites are just something that can survive all the other mass sweepers like Anger of Gods and Drown in Sorrow, so that's why I'm including them. I did try Soldier of the Pantheon in this deck, and I did end up not liking it, as the counters, like if you Defiant Strike it, the Soldier of the Pantheon gets the +1/+0 one time, and that's it. Defiant Strike is really just in here for like a cantrip type card. You give a creature +1/+0 and you get a draw card. I've been able to cast like a Fabled Hero on a turn 5 or turn 6, and then just kind of go off with like Defiant Strike, finding another spell to actually cast on the Fabled Hero. So again, I think it's a very powerful card to be put in this deck, Defiant Strike, as it does just enable that heroic. I don't think it's powerful enough on its own, just +1/+0 and draw a card, but that getting another +1/+1 counter on your Lagonna-Band Trailblazer and your Favored Hoplite for not the cost of the card, just the cost of the mana, is huge in this deck. So onto our 2-drop. I'm thinking Akroan Skyguard is the most powerful 2-drop, as it does have evasion, flying 1/1 heroic. You can use the Vanguard of Brimaz instead, but it is in this case double white, which might actually be affected by the Radiant Fountain. Vanguard of Brimaz, and there's also the what's he called? The other Hoplite guy, or not Hoplite. He is the 2 mana, puts +1/+1 counters on all of your guys. The Phalanx Leader. Phalanx Leader definitely is another card you could work with. What I found with this deck is you hardly ever had like more than one creature in games. Again, so many games I just put out one creature and protect it. And if I have 2 creatures out, it's really just to give me options. One to block, one to attack in, and just clog up the board. So Phalanx Leader at a 1/1 was already kind of behind a Vanguard of Brimaz at a 2/2, and then the Vanguard of Brimaz puts out 1/1 Cat Soldier tokens with Vigilance, which seemed to be a little more powerful in this format than putting +1/+1 counters on all your creatures. Now these 2 cards do synergize with each other, so I am not against replacing Phalanx Leader with the Akroan Crusader and Seeker of the Way with the Vanguard of Brimaz. You can definitely go that route. If you're going to go that route, I do suggest putting in like more Spear of Heliods, maybe a Hall of Triumph, something to give your 1/1 tokens a little bit more of a buff. I don't think the Phalanx Leader will quite be enough to do so. And then again, it just takes a different route than what I want to be going with this route of getting out one or 2 creatures and then protecting them. So then we do have Seeker of the Way. This card is just plain awesome. It is a 2/2 lifelinker. Well, it gains lifelink and +1/+1 whenever you cast a non-creature spell. So in this deck, again, Defiant Strike makes it a 4/3 lifelinker for that turn. It's very hard for any sort of aggro deck to get past the Seeker Away. It's easy to protect against like a Magma Jet or even a Lightning Strike or even a Stoke the Flames. You can get it above a 4/4 quite easy in one turn, and then Stoke the Flames fizzles. You have Fabled Hero again at the 3-drop and Dawnbringer Charioteers at the 4-drop. This is very important in this deck because Dawnbringer Charioteers cannot be Lightning Striked, and it does a really good job of hosing Mantis Rider. Mantis Rider is a 3/3 flying haste vigilance. This guy is a 2/4 and usually comes out on the next turn, or so Mantis Rider usually only gets in for 3 damage, and then you're able to play this, and then it just completely shuts it down. This guy can also block cards like Brimaz and then be up in the life swing. You can get this quite big very quickly, becomes, again, against any sort of aggro deck or burn type strategy. You drop this guy out. If they don't have the removal spell, especially they're red, then it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and also has evasion and lifelink. And again, this deck is not like an aggro deck. I'd more consider this deck winning on turn 6, turn 7, rather than on, turn 3, 4. And you can grind out your opponents, make them try to waste removal on your guys, and then protect your guys, and they just get bigger and bigger and bigger, especially with the 1-drop Favored Hoplite, and then they try to Magma Jet it, and you Defiant Strike it or something, and then now it's a 2-3, then a 3-4, then a 4-5, then a 5-6, and eventually the little Hoplite that could will get in there for the last bit of damage. You have ways to actually make them unblockable through Feat of Resistance and through God's Willing. Now, I actually like Feat of Resistance a little bit more than God's Willing in this deck because of the +1/+1 counter that sticks around. Now your favorite Hoplite is a 3-4 permanently after you use the Feat of Resistance just one time. And on turn 2, a 3-4, that's like a Goyf. You really got to think of this guy as the Tarmogoyf. It keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's what makes Goyf so good in Modern, is when you drop it, you usually drop it for like a 3-4, then pretty soon it's going to be a 4-5, then a 5-6. Favorite Hoplite's going to be much similar to that. So again, we talked about Launch the Fleet. If you have 2 or more creatures out, this just continues to gain value. Ajani's Presence gains some value with the Strive mechanic as well. And then there's so many times the board just gets clogged up and you just have to get like a God's Willing and a Feat of Resistance and then just get in there for their last bit of damage. Fabled Hero gives you that kind of X factor, gives you the ability to end on one turn. I have done 4-turn kill combos with this, with Fabled Hero, dropping Fabled Hero, then like Defiant Strike, and then another pump spell, and you can swing in for like 18 to 20 damage a lot of times. So, anywho, let's look at the sideboard. The sideboard has 2 Ordeal of Heliod. These are very good against aggro-based decks. You could go more of an aura strategy, but then you're going to be going into blue. Again, you can check out my YouTube/Rogue Deck Builder for a blue version that utilizes Ordeal of Thassa as a very, very important card in the deck, as it does continue to draw you cards to find you more spells to actually cast on your guys. 2 more Dawnbringer Charioteers. He's coming versus aggro. I have a Glimpse of the Sun God testing this out. This has a cool interaction because you can actually tap your own creatures in the after the attack phase. So you've already declared attackers and they're tapped and attacking. You can then use Glimpse of the Sun God to tap down the blockers and tap your creatures that are already tapped to put counters on them, or end of their turn, you can actually use your mana, tap down their potential blockers for your turn, and if you have any excess mana, you can still target your own creatures because they are going to be untapping, and scrying's pretty cool. So this is a pretty cool card as a one-of. I have Spear of Heliod. If you're going to bring in the Launch the Fleets and the Vanguard of Brimaz, what usually happens is I take out maybe Seekers, or even maybe Dawnbringer Charioteers, and what you do is you bring in the Launch the Fleets and you bring in the Vanguard of Brimaz, and you go kind of this token strategy. We have 2 Banishing Lights that can take care of problematic Planeswalkers, problematic enchantments, problematic anything, creatures. We have 2 erases. These are really in here for the Jeskai combo, as you can erase the Jeskai Ascendancy. These are good against Courser Crewfix. This is good against opposing Banishing Lights or Suspension Fields, or anything that's giving you a problem, Whip of Erebos, things like that. And then I have 2 Devouring Lights. Exile is pretty cool in this format, as you can exile problematic cards. And there is a lot of dying, like things that actually work with dying in the format, or like the Bloodsoaked Champion can keep coming back. I don't think Bloodsoaked Champion really is a problem with this deck, but exiling is pretty good in this deck, so rather than just destroying. So anywho, that's kind of the gist of the deck. There's a few cards you could put in here again with like more hate cards towards. That's what's so cool about being in white. I thought about playing like Eidolon of Rhetoric against the Jeskai combo. Eidolon of Rhetoric says each player can only cast 1 spell per turn, but it just seemed like they could just retract and heal it back and still go off on that turn. So the metagame right now is probably going to be full of just after Pro Tour, a lot of Abzan mid-range. There's a lot of those in the top 8. There's a lot of Jeskai tempo decks, and there was a lot of the combo decks. I think people, when they see a new combo deck, always want to play it. So we do need to hate out against those type of cards. Anyway, going a little bit long with this deck tech, we'll play some games here. This is Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Playing on a Budget. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Gathering Magic and check out our Playing on a Budget playlist, which contains every episode. Thanks again, and hope to see you soon.